The first thing I heard when I came back from the dead wasn't thunder. It wasn't screaming. It wasn't the screech of metal folding against rock. It was laughter. Drunk, bright, careless laughter spilling out of Cameron Blake's beachfront villa like none of it mattered. For a few seconds, my brain couldn't catch up. I was warm. My lungs were working. My hands were dry. I was standing upright, not pinned under a crushed car with rain pouring into my mouth. That didn't make sense. None of it made sense. Then I saw the glass wall. The Atlantic Ocean beyond it was already black. Wind slammed against the palm trees hard enough to bend them sideways. Rain streaked the windows in silver sheets. The beach, the one that used to stretch wide and pale under the moon, had nearly vanished under rising water. Foam crashed over the dunes and rushed into the lower garden. On the television above the fireplace, a local weather anchor stood in front of a red storm map. Hurricane Celeste expected to make landfall within 6 hours. Mandatory evacuation order remains in effect for low-lying coastal zones. Residents are urged to leave immediately. Mandatory evacuation. Beachfront property. 6 hours to landfall. Same night. Same villa. Same party. And I had come back. Someone behind me shouted, "Turn that depressing crap off." A girl in a silver dress threw a couch pillow at the TV. It bounced off the corner and flopped onto the rug. The weather anchor kept talking. Cameron Blake laughed from the center of the room, holding a champagne bottle like it was a trophy. "Relax, everyone," he said. "It's a hurricane, not the apocalypse." A few people cheered. Music swelled again. Blue party lights swept across white walls, across half-empty glasses, across designer shoes wet from the terrace, across faces flushed with alcohol and money. And there, near the kitchen island, stood Audrey Hart. My girlfriend. Or the woman I had called my girlfriend in my first life. She wore a white satin dress under an oversized denim jacket. Her dark hair fell loose around her shoulders, and her cheeks were pink from champagne and excitement. She was smiling at Cameron the way people smile at a fire when they forget it can burn the whole house down. In my first life, I had stood exactly where I was standing now. Holding my phone with the evacuation alert open. Begging her to leave with me. "Audrey, this whole zone is under evacuation." She had rolled her eyes. "Ethan, don't start. The bridge can close. The storm surge forecast changed. The county is telling people to get out." Cameron planned this for weeks. That doesn't matter. It matters to him. Then Cameron had slung an arm around her shoulders and said, "Your boyfriend thinks drizzle is the end of civilization." Everyone laughed. Audrey laughed too. Not because it was funny, because laughing with the room felt easier than standing beside me. I left the villa angry, humiliated, and terrified. Then, halfway to the city, Audrey called. Not a real call at first. Her voice shaking. "Ethan, the power went out. Cameron says it's fine, but the garage is flooding. I think the road is gone. Can you come back, please? I'm scared, I turned around. Noah Reed screamed at me through the phone not to. Professor Harper texted that the investor group would not wait if I missed the signing. Michael Chen, the venture partner who had agreed to fund my disaster evacuation platform, called once. I declined. I drove back toward the coast. A tree fell across Shoreline Road. The detour took me toward the bluff. The bluff road had already been weakened by days of rain. By the time I saw the mud sliding across the asphalt, it was already too late. The hillside came down like a wall. I remembered the impact. I remembered my headlights spinning toward darkness. I remembered glass. I remembered my chest crushing against the steering wheel. Then I remembered waking in a hospital for half a second. Maybe a dream. Maybe not. Audrey crying beside the bed. Cameron not there. Noah was. Face gray with rage. My mother's voice from far away. Then nothing until now. Until the villa. Until the laughter. My phone buzzed in my hand. "Noah, please tell me you already left that idiotic rich people death trap." Then another message, Ethan, I swear to God, if you let Audrey guilt you into staying at Hurricane Gatsby, I will personally haunt you before the storm does. I stared at the message. My throat tightened. Noah was alive. I was alive. The contract was still unsigned. The storm had not landed. Yet. There was still time. A hand touched my arm. You okay? Audrey asked. Her smile faded when she saw my face. Ethan? For a moment, the first life folded over this one. Audrey screaming my name in the rain. Audrey sobbing that she never meant for me to get hurt. Audrey saying at my funeral, according to memories I should not have had, asterisk he always came for me. Asterisk. That had been my epitaph. He always came for me. I looked at her hand on my sleeve. Then I gently stepped back. She noticed. Her brows drew together. What's wrong with you tonight? I looked toward the television. The weather anchor was now showing storm surge projections. Red flooded half the coastline. This villa was inside the mandatory evacuation zone. Audrey exhaled. There it was. The sound she made whenever I became inconvenient. Ethan, County Emergency Management issued the order this afternoon. I showed you. I saw it. Then why are you still here? She glanced toward Cameron, then lowered her voice. Because Cameron planned this party for weeks. It's his last weekend before his father makes him join the Miami office full time. Everyone came. We can't just run out because the news wants ratings. The sheriff's office is not doing ratings. You always do this. Do what? Make everything sound like a crisis. I almost laughed. Outside, wind slammed rain against the glass so hard several people looked up. I pointed toward the window. That is a crisis. It's weather. It's a hurricane. You act like we're going to die. My hand tightened around my phone. In my first life, I had. But not because I stayed. Because I went back. Cameron came over before I could answer. He smelled like champagne and expensive cologne. His linen shirt was open at the throat, sleeves rolled, hair carefully messy in the way only rich men could afford during emergencies. Everything good? He asked. Audrey said, Ethan is worried about the storm. Cameron gave me his best amused smile. Of course he is. I looked at him. In my first life, Cameron had been charming until consequences arrived. Then he became smoke. He told the police later that everyone had chosen to stay voluntarily. He told reporters the storm escalated unexpectedly. He told Audrey he had tried to get people out, which was a lie. He told himself my death was tragic. Not connected. Now he stood in front of me. Alive. Dry. Careless. Cameron, I said, the evacuation order includes this street. He lifted the champagne bottle slightly. This street is private. Hurricanes don't respect gated community signage. A few people nearby laughed. Not at me this time. Cameron's smile tightened. Look, man, I get that you build weather apps or whatever. Emergency routing systems, right? So storms are kind of your thing. But this house is built like a fortress. We have backup generators, storm glass, supplies. Half the people here are staying over anyway. No one's driving drunk. No one's doing anything crazy. The lower road floods first. If it goes under, emergency services may not reach you until after landfall. Then we'll party until morning. Cheers from the kitchen. Audrey smiled weakly, like she wanted the tension to disappear. See, she said. People are fine. People are drunk. Cameron's eyes cooled. Careful. No, I said. You be careful. You invited 30 people into an evacuation zone and you're mocking the warning on camera. He glanced toward the phones people held up for the first time. Calculation crossed his face. Audrey whispered, Ethan, stop. You're embarrassing me. There it was. Not you're scaring me. Not are you sure. Embarrassing me, that sentence had owned too many pieces of my life. I turned to her. I'm leaving. She blinked. What? I am leaving now. I have a contract signing in the city at 8:30. I already told you. Her eyes flashed. You're really going to a meeting tonight? Yes. With a hurricane coming? That's why the meeting matters. Cameron's friends are here. This is important to him. My company is important to me. Her mouth parted. She looked genuinely shocked, as if my life had spoken out of turn. Cameron laughed. Go sign your app thing, Miller. We'll survive without the lecture. I looked at him. I hope so. He raised his glass. Was that supposed to sound dramatic? No. It was supposed to sound recorded. His expression shifted. I lifted my phone. The recording timer was running. Not hidden. Not illegal. Visible. I'm documenting that I warned you. Mandatory evacuation order. Storm surge risk. Road closure risk. Emergency services access risk. You are choosing to stay. The room quieted in uneven patches. Audrey stared at my phone. Are you serious? Yes. You're recording us? I'm recording my warning. If you leave now, we can go safely inland. Cameron stepped forward. That's enough. I ignored him and looked at Audrey one more time. Come with me. Her eyes filled with anger and something like fear. Not fear of the hurricane. Fear of losing face in front of him. Why can't you just let people enjoy one night? I felt the first life die in me again. Quietly this time. No crash. No blood. Just a door closing. I warned you, I said. If you stay, that is your choice. Audrey's jaw trembled. So you're leaving me here? No. You're staying. She flinched. I sent her the evacuation route I had mapped earlier. Then I sent the villa address, number of guests I had counted, Cameron's name, and the storm risk notes to the county emergency management line. I also sent a formal notification through the coastal property management portal. Then I called the hotline, gave the information verbally, and asked that the address be added to the high-risk welfare checklist if conditions allowed. The operator sounded tired but professional. Sir, if you are currently in the evacuation zone, you should leave immediately. I am leaving now. I will not attempt to re-enter after roads close. I understand. I looked at Audrey while I said it. She looked away. I ended the call. Cameron laughed softly. You called the hotline? Really? Yes. Man, you are unbelievable. Audrey whispered, you're acting like you want something bad to happen. No, I said, I'm acting like I know something bad can happen. Then I walked to the door. For 1 second, Audrey followed me. Hope moved in my chest against my will. Then Cameron called, Audrey, let him go. He wants to make a point. She stopped. That told me everything. I opened the front door. Wind and rain hit me like a shove. Behind me, music rose again. I stepped into the storm. This time, I did not look back. Noah was waiting at the top of the hill in a rented SUV with hazard lights flashing. The sight of him nearly undid me. In my first life, Noah had been on speakerphone when I turned back toward the villa. Ethan, do not do this. I have to. No, you don't. You warned her. She's scared. She chose to stay. She called me. She always calls you after choosing him. Those were the last words he ever said to me before the crash. This time, when I climbed into the passenger seat, soaked from the 20-foot walk between the villa and the SUV, Noah stared at me like he didn't trust reality. You came out, he said. Yes. You're in the car. Yes. You're not carrying Audrey. No. You're not bleeding. No. He exhaled violently and gripped the wheel. Great. Excellent. My ulcer just resigned. I shut the door. Rain hammered the roof. The villa glowed behind us, all glass and music and blue light against the black ocean. Noah looked through the windshield. Are they still partying? Yes. Of course they are. I warned them. Good. I recorded it. Better. I sent the address and guest count to emergency management and property management. Noah turned to me slowly. You did all that and still got out? Yes. His expression shifted from disbelief to relief to something close to pride. Look at you. Using systems instead of martyrdom. My hand shook. He noticed immediately. Ethan. I'm okay. Your body disagrees. It remembers something. Noah looked at me for a long second. You've been saying ominous things all week. I know. Do I need to ask whether you're involved in time travel, prophecy, or an extremely bad edible? Despite everything, I laughed once. It came out broken. Noah didn't laugh. He pulled onto the road. The private lane down from Cameron's villa was already covered in palm debris. Water ran across the asphalt in shallow streams. The SUV's tires hissed through it carefully. Noah drove like he was transporting explosives. And me. You're really going to the signing? He asked. Yes. Good. Stop sounding surprised. I have watched you abandon finals, interviews, meals, sleep, and once a dental appointment because Audrey said Cameron was having a hard day. That was different. How? I was stupid then. Noah glanced at me. Okay. That was pleasantly direct. My phone lit up. Audrey. Audrey, are you seriously leaving? Asterisk Audrey, then everyone thinks you're being dramatic. Asterisk. Asterisk Audrey, then Cameron says you called emergency management. Why would you do that? Asterisk. Noah glanced at the screen. Do not engage. I won't. Another message. Asterisk Audrey, if the party gets shut down because of you, this is going to be so embarrassing. Asterisk. I stared at the word embarrassing. The house was inside a storm surge zone. She was worried about embarrassment. Noah muttered, I can hear you emotionally dying. I already did. He went still. I realized what I had said. The road curved inland. Behind us, the beach disappeared behind rain and darkness. Noah said carefully, Ethan. Not now. Soon, maybe. Okay. That was why Noah was my best friend. He pushed when I needed pushing. He stopped when stopping mattered. We reached the first police roadblock 12 minutes later. A sheriff's deputy in a rain jacket waved vehicles inland. The road leading back toward the coast had a portable sign blinking, asterisk evacuation route closing. Coastal access restricted, asterisk. Noah lowered the window. Rain blew in. The deputy leaned down. You headed inland? Yes, Noah said. Downtown. We just came from Ocean Crest Drive. The deputy's face tightened. People still out there? A party at 19 Ocean Crest, I said. I called it in. About 30 guests. He stared at me. At Cameron Blake's place? Yes. He swore under his breath. We've had 2 calls about loud music from that road. They were advised to evacuate earlier. They refused. The deputy looked toward the coast. Once we close this access, we cannot send units back in unless conditions allow. You understand that? I do. He looked at me. Maybe he expected me to ask him to force them out. In my first life, I would have. This time, I said, they were warned. The deputy nodded once. Get inland. Noah rolled up the window. We drove on. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then Noah said, there it is. What? The line. I looked at him. He kept his eyes on the road. You warned them. The deputy warned them. The county warned them. God, weather radar, and probably several screaming seagulls warned them. If they stay, that is not your failure. I know. Do you? I watched the rain streak across the windshield. I'm trying to. My phone buzzed again. This time, a video notification. Someone at the party had posted a story. Cameron stood on the terrace under the covered balcony, wind whipping his shirt, champagne bottle raised. Behind him, waves exploded against the seawall. Caption, Hurricane Celeste can't stop the last summer party. Then Cameron shouted into the camera. Ethan Miller thinks drizzle is the end of civilization. Laughter. The camera swung to Audrey. She was laughing too. Not comfortably. But laughing. Cameron pulled her close and said, Audrey isn't scared. Are you? She smiled at the camera. No. I turned off the screen. Noah's jaw flexed. She laughed. Yes. I hate her a little. Don't. I said a little. Growth. She's choosing the room. Noah was silent. Then he said, and you're choosing the road out. Yes. Good. The city grew brighter as we moved inland. Rain still fell hard. But the streets were less flooded, the wind less violent. We reached the Astor Ridge Emergency Innovation Hub at 8:14 p.m. 16 minutes before the meeting. The building had backup power, storm shutters, and a lobby full of people who understood risk. Screens displayed weather maps. Staff moved with urgency, but not panic. A generator hummed beneath the floor. This was where I should have been in my first life. Not on a collapsing bluff road. Not driving back toward a villa full of people who had laughed at warnings. Professor Elena Harper stood near the conference room entrance. Silver hair pinned back. Black jacket dry because she was intelligent enough not to stand on oceanfront balconies during hurricanes. Her eyes moved over me. You're wet. I left the evacuation zone. That would explain it. Michael Chen stood beside her, tablet in hand. He was the managing partner at Astor Ridge Ventures, calm, precise, allergic to founders who confused chaos with passion. He looked at me. You made it. So am I. Professor Harper's gaze sharpened, as if she heard more in that sentence than I intended. Noah hung back. Harper looked at him. Mr. Reed. Are you here in a legal, moral, or restraining capacity? All three. Excellent. Sit in the back and interrupt only if someone attempts stupidity. Noah looked moved. I have trained for this. We entered the conference room. On the table lay the contract I had lost in my first life. Civic Shield, a disaster prediction and evacuation routing platform designed for coastal cities, emergency managers, insurers, and public utilities. My system combined storm surge models, road elevation data, live traffic, historical flood patterns, shelter capacity, and evacuation compliance indicators to recommend staged route closures and emergency resource deployment. The concept was born from engineering. But in my first life, it died because of love. Or what I had mistaken for love. Michael began, we have reviewed the technical demo, municipal interest letters, and the pilot proposal. Tonight's weather has made the use case uncomfortably immediate. Professor Harper said, reality often has poor timing. Michael nodded. Astor Ridge is prepared to lead a $10 million seed investment contingent on the Port Haven pilot and technical milestones. In my first life, I missed this sentence. This time, I heard every word. My phone buzzed. I did not look. Michael slid the term sheet forward. Before we sign, I want to ask one question. I nodded. Tonight, your girlfriend is apparently still at a beach party in an evacuation zone. My body went still. Noah muttered, oh, we're doing this. Michael continued, calm as ever. I know because one of my associates saw the public story and recognized the location. You were there. Yes. You left. Yes. Why? That question would have broken me once because the answer sounded ugly if you believed love required self-destruction. I said, because I warned them. Documented the warning. Sent the address and guest count to emergency management. Gave them evacuation routes. And left before access closed. Michael watched me. And you did not stay to convince them. No. Why? Because the system only works if people accept risk boundaries. If I ignore every boundary the moment someone I love refuses data, then I am not building emergency infrastructure. I am performing emotion. The room went quiet. Professor Harper's mouth did not move, but approval flickered in her eyes. Michael leaned back. That is the best answer you could have given. My throat tightened. Thank you. He picked up the pen. Let's sign. Outside, the hurricane moved closer. Inside, I signed my name. The first time I signed the Civic Shield agreement, my hand was wet not with rain, with sweat. The storm had thickened outside the reinforced glass of the Astor Ridge hub. Wind shoved against the building in pulses. Emergency lights flickered once when the grid dipped, then the generator caught. Seamlessly. No one screamed. No one laughed at warnings. No one called risk anxiety. People looked at maps, data, alerts, road closures, shelter capacity, and response windows. For the first time all night, I was in a room where reality was allowed to matter. Michael signed first, then I did. Ethan Miller, founder and technical lead, Civic Shield Systems. In my first life, I never became founder in practice. I stayed a promising engineer with a missed meeting, a broken contract, and a dead body before that could matter. This time, ink dried on paper. That simple thing felt heavier than romance. Heavier than guilt. Heavier than every time Audrey had said, "You're overreacting." Professor Harper signed as technical advisor. Astor Ridge's legal counsel countersigned. Noah, in the back, mouthed, "Finally." The moment should have felt triumphant. Instead, my phone vibrated again. This time, an emergency alert. Asterisk coastal access to Ocean Crest Drive closed. Storm surge expected. Do not attempt travel, asterisk. Then Audrey called. The room saw my face change. Professor Harper said, "Answer on speaker if this affects an active emergency." It did. I answered. Wind roared through the phone. Audrey's voice came broken and breathless. "Ethan. I'm here. The power is out." I figured. The garage is flooding. Cameron says the generator will kick back on, but it hasn't. And the back door won't open because something hit it. How many people are still there? I don't know. Maybe 26. Some left earlier. Is anyone injured? No, I don't think so. People are scared. Cameron's voice shouted in the background, "Don't make it sound worse than it is." Audrey snapped, "The water is in the garage." I closed my eyes. This was the call in my first life. It made me turn around. This time, I turned to Professor Harper. She nodded toward the emergency map. I asked Audrey, "Are you on the upper floor?" "Yes." "Stay there. Do not go to the garage. Do not try to drive. Do not go outside. Can you come back?" The words entered me like cold water. Noah stood. Professor Harper's eyes fixed on me. Michael stopped moving. I said, "No." Silence on the line. Then Audrey whispered, "What?" "I cannot come back. The access roads are closed. You can find another way." "No. Ethan, please. I'm scared. I am calling emergency management again. You need to shelter on the upper floor and wait for responders when conditions allow." "You're not coming." "No." Her breathing turned ragged. "You used to come for me no matter what." There it was. The line from the outline of my life. The sentence that had killed me. I looked at the storm map. At the red zone where Ocean Crest Drive pulsed under surge warning, at the Bluff Road where, in another life, mud had taken my car. Then I said, "That's why I didn't survive last time." The room went absolutely still. Audrey was silent too. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm not becoming another person they need to rescue." Cameron's voice came closer to the phone. "Is he seriously refusing to come?" I said, "Cameron, listen carefully. You need to move everyone to the second floor interior rooms, away from windows. Count every person. Text me the number. Do not let anyone go to the garage. Do not open exterior doors facing the ocean." He scoffed, but fear cracked the sound. "Who made you captain?" "The county evacuation order did." "Man, this is your fault. You called them and made this a thing." "No. The hurricane made this a thing." Audrey said, "Ethan, I'm scared." "I know. I'm calling help. Stay upstairs." I ended the call before she could ask again. Not because I didn't care. Because I did. Because if I listened too long, the dead version of me might take the wheel again. I immediately called the emergency management hotline and gave the villa address again, updated occupancy estimate, flooding status, power outage, upper floor shelter recommendation. The operator confirmed. The area was inaccessible to standard units but had been flagged for post-landfall welfare check and possible high water rescue if conditions worsened. "Tell them not to attempt evacuation now," she said. "They need to shelter in place until responders can reach them. If water enters occupied areas, they should move higher and call 911. "I understand. Are you with them?" "No. Do not attempt to reach them." "I won't." The words were harder than signing the contract. "I won't." When I ended the call, Noah was watching me with a pale face. Professor Harper spoke first. "You handled that correctly." I let out a breath that shook. "I don't feel correct." "Feelings are not performance metrics," Noah whispered. "I love you, Professor." She ignored him. Michael looked at me with a new seriousness. "Your platform needs a civilian accountability layer." I blinked. "What?" "Warnings. Acknowledgements. Time-stamped decisions. Emergency routing. Location escalation. What you just did manually. There's a product need." Professor Harper said, "Mr. Chen, perhaps do not turn his active trauma into a feature roadmap before midnight." Michael looked slightly chastened. "Fair." I almost laughed. Then Audrey texted, "There are 23 people upstairs. Cameron says 24, but I think one girl left. I forwarded the number to emergency management, then texted, "Stay away from windows. Keep phones charged. Put on shoes. Fill containers with clean water if safe. Do not go downstairs." She replied, "Are you at your meeting?" I stared at the screen, then typed, "Yes." Long pause. Then, "You chose the meeting." I closed my eyes. Noah reached for my phone. I shook my head, replied, "I chose not to die for a party." She did not answer. The hurricane made landfall at 11:41 p.m. We watched it on screens. Wind speed, pressure, storm surge, emergency calls, road closures, power outages. The coast disappeared beneath layers of red and orange. Ocean Crest Drive lost power entirely. Then the cellular tower nearest the villa went unstable. Audrey's last message before the signal dropped was, "I think you hate me." I did not answer, because hate would have been easier. Hate would have made leaving clean. What I felt was worse. Love with its spine finally broken. Fear with nowhere to run. Memory of death and a brutal, necessary understanding. I could care whether Audrey lived without making my body the bridge between her and consequence. At 1:16 a.m., emergency. Management confirmed that a high-water rescue team had reached several properties on Ocean Crest after the worst surge began receding. At 1:43 a.m., the villa occupants were moved to a temporary shelter at Harbor High School. No major injuries. One sprained ankle. 2 mild panic attacks. Several hypothermia evaluations. No deaths. No deaths. I sat down hard in the conference room chair. Noah put a hand on my shoulder. Professor Harper closed her laptop. Michael said quietly, "They're alive." I nodded. In my first life, I died trying to make that true. In this one, trained responders made it true without adding my name to the casualty list. The difference felt like grief and mercy at once. Audrey called me at 7:08 the next morning from the Harbor High School evacuation shelter. I was still at the Astor Ridge hub. None of us had gone home. The bridges were closed. The streets were scattered with debris, and the city had shifted into recovery mode. Someone had brought coffee. It tasted like burnt cardboard and survival. I answered in a small side office with Noah leaning against the wall and Professor Harper nearby pretending not to supervise. Audrey's voice sounded raw. "You really didn't come. Not thank you. Not we're alive. Not I should have listened. Just you really didn't come." I closed my eyes. I called emergency management. I know. I updated them when you called. I know. I sent instructions. I know, Ethan. Then what are you asking? Her breath shook. Why didn't you come? Noah's face went flat. Professor Harper's eyes sharpened. I said, "Because I'm not a rescue team." Audrey made a wounded sound. That's such a cold thing to say. It is a factual thing to say. I was terrified. I know. The water was everywhere. The windows were shaking. People were crying. Cameron didn't know what to do. Cameron was the host. He panicked. He created the situation. He didn't know it would get that bad. He was warned. So was I, she whispered. Yes. A silence followed for 1 second. I thought she might say it. I was wrong. Instead, she said, "You used to come." The old hook. The one still buried somewhere inside my ribs. I said, "That was the problem." She went quiet then. Softly, "What is happening to you?" "I'm surviving." "You keep saying things like that." "Yes. Like you died before." I did not answer. She whispered, "Did you want us to be scared?" "No." "Did you want me to regret choosing Cameron's party?" "Yes." That honesty surprised both of us. She sucked in a breath. I continued, "Regret is appropriate when your choice nearly gets people killed." Her voice sharpened. "Nearly gets people killed?" "No one forced anyone to stay." I laughed once. Not because she was wrong. Because Cameron's future statement had already entered her mouth. Did Cameron say that? She said nothing. He did. He's right that everyone made their own decision. Yes. But he invited them. Yes. And you chose to stay. I know. Do you, Ethan? Do you? Because the first thing you asked me was why I didn't personally drive back into a hurricane. Not why Cameron held the party. Not why you ignored the evacuation order. Not why everyone laughed at the warning. You asked why I didn't become the emergency plan. Silence. Then crying, quiet at first, then harder. In my first life, her crying controlled me. Not because she was manipulative every time, but because I had trained myself to treat her distress as my assignment. This time, I let her cry. Professor Harper looked out the window. Noah stared at the floor, jaw tight. Audrey eventually whispered, "I thought you loved me." I did. Past tense. I did not answer. She understood anyway. Her voice broke. Was last night the end? No. A tiny breath. Then I said, the end started long before last night. That breath collapsed. I continued, every time I warned you and you called it anxiety. Every time Cameron mocked me and you laughed so the room wouldn't turn on you. Every time you expected me to come back after you chose the place that disrespected me. She said, I didn't laugh because I agreed. You laughed because you wanted to belong. That's not the same. It felt the same from where I was standing. Another silence. Then she said, Cameron told everyone this morning that he didn't force them to stay. Of course he said that. Yes. How did that make you feel? Like an idiot. Good. She flinched audibly. That was cruel. No, it was accurate. Feeling stupid after ignoring a dangerous warning is a useful response. Noah looked at Professor Harper and whispered, he's becoming you. Professor Harper whispered back, he should aim higher. Audrey said, did you sign your contract? Yes. And that mattered more than me. There it was. Not survival. Not safety. The hierarchy. I said, my life mattered more than repeating a pattern where I lose everything because you choose Cameron and call it loyalty. She inhaled sharply. I never asked you to lose everything. No. You only asked me to keep proving I would. That landed. She said nothing for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was small. What happens now? You get home safely. You document damage. You cooperate with emergency officials. You stop letting Cameron define what happened. And us? I don't know. That was honest. Maybe too generous. But I was exhausted. She said, can I see you? No. Not today. Tomorrow? I don't know. Ethan, please. No. I ended the call before the plea became a command. My hand shook around the phone. Noah came over and took it gently before I dropped it. You did not deserve that, he said. I know. Do you? I'm trying. Professor Harper spoke from the window. Trying is acceptable. Relapsing into martyrdom is not. Noah pointed at her. That should be on the company wall. No. But later we did put a cleaner version into Civic Shield's internal safety principles. Do not create additional victims through emotional override. By afternoon, the party had become public. Someone leaked videos. Cameron shouting over the wind. People dancing while storm alerts crawled across the television. Me warning them in the background. Cameron saying, your boyfriend thinks drizzle is the end of civilization. Audrey laughing. Then later footage from after the power went out. Darkness. Screaming. Water pouring into the lower level. Someone shouting that the cars were floating in the garage. The internet did what the internet does. It judged quickly, loudly, and not always fairly. But some judgments were fair. Asterisk rich kids ignore evacuation order and need rescue. Beach Villa hurricane party sparks outrage. Emergency workers risk lives after private party refuses to leave. Asterisk. Cameron released a statement by evening. I read it in the Astor Ridge lobby. Noah read over my shoulder and groaned before the second sentence. Asterisk Cameron Blake, last night's storm escalated faster than anyone expected. A number of guests chose to shelter at my family's property because travel conditions were already deteriorating. I am grateful to emergency responders and relieved everyone is safe. No one was forced to remain at the property, and we are cooperating fully with all authorities. No one was forced. Asterisk. Audrey called 10 minutes after it posted. I did not answer. She texted, he's blaming everyone. Then, he said if you hadn't reported the villa, the media wouldn't care. Then, asterisk why is he making this about himself? Asterisk. I stared at the last message because everyone in your circle does. I thought, instead, I replied, because accountability is expensive and he is overdrawn. Noah read it and said, that's excellent. Mean, but well-tailored. Audrey did not respond for an hour. Then, were you embarrassed when I laughed? I almost didn't answer. Then I typed, yes. She replied, I'm sorry. A few seconds later, asterisk that was the first time I realized I chose the room over you. Asterisk. I looked at the message until the screen dimmed. Noah asked, what? She said something true. Dangerous. Do not confuse truth with repair. I won't. He studied me. You sure? No. Better answer. The Blake family beach villa was damaged badly enough that the county marked it unsafe for occupancy pending structural inspection. The underground garage flooded completely. 3 luxury cars were totaled. The seawall cracked. The lower floor took water up to the kitchen counters. Insurance became complicated because Cameron had hosted a party after a mandatory evacuation order. That last detail made him much less charming to his father for several days. Cameron tried to control the narrative. He gave statements about unexpected storm behavior. He told mutual friends the media exaggerated. He told Audrey he had begged people to leave, which the videos immediately contradicted. Then he tried a new angle. Ethan overreacted and made it official. That was almost funny. The hurricane did not embarrass Cameron. The evacuation order did not embarrass Cameron. The rescue did not embarrass Cameron. The public videos did not embarrass Cameron. No, my emergency management call did. Audrey told me this in a coffee shop 1 week after landfall. I agreed to meet because she asked for 20 minutes, not because I was ready to forgive her. There is a difference. I chose a public place. No one knew where I was. Professor Harper would have called that reasonable emotional containment, though I did not ask because I did not want the phrase in my head. Audrey arrived in jeans, a gray sweater, and no makeup. The old Audrey would have dressed carefully for a conversation like this. She would have chosen softness as strategy. This Audrey looked tired in a way that did not perform. She sat across from me. Thank you for coming. I have 20 minutes. She nodded. Okay. That small acceptance mattered. She folded her hands around her coffee cup. Cameron says your call made the county prioritize the villa, and that's why reporters found out. I said, the rescue radio logs are public enough for reporters to track major incidents. I know. Also, his guests posted half the night online. I know. And the villa is owned by a well-known family. I know. So he's lying. She looked down. He says it wasn't lying. He says he's just pointing out that you escalated it. Good. She looked up. Good. Yes. I did escalate it to the correct people. That is why responders knew the address, number of guests, and situation. Her fingers tightened around the cup. I know. I keep forgetting that part because he makes it sound like betrayal. Cameron thinks consequences are betrayal. Audrey's eyes filled. That's true. I said nothing. She continued. He told me yesterday no one forced them to stay. I saw the statement. I defended him at first. I assumed. Pain crossed her face. I said, technically, he was right. People chose to stay. I chose to stay. Yes. But then I realized he only says that after something goes wrong. Before that, he wanted us all there. He wanted the videos, the attention, the storm party story. He wanted me laughing beside him. Yes. Her eyes met mine. And I did. Yes. She swallowed. I'm sorry. Thank you. No, Ethan. I'm sorry I laughed. I'm sorry I made your warning into a joke. I'm sorry I cared more about being wanted in that room than being honest with you. That was clearer late. But clearer. I nodded. Thank you for saying it correctly. She wiped a tear quickly. I keep thinking about when you asked me to leave with you. I remembered the blue lights on her face, the ocean battering the glass, my voice steady because I had already died once. Why didn't I go? She whispered. I answered because I knew she wanted truth, not comfort. Because leaving with me would have meant admitting Cameron was wrong in front of his friends. Her mouth trembled. Yes. And you wanted to belong there. Yes. And you assumed I would come back later if things got bad. She closed her eyes. Yes. There it was. The whole skeleton. No pretty words. No childhood friend loyalty. No, you don't understand. Just yes. She said, I thought your life was part of my emergency plan. The sentence landed between us. I looked out the cafe window at the street. The hurricane debris had mostly been cleared from this neighborhood, though piles of branches still sat near the curb. Yes, I said. Audrey cried quietly. I did not comfort her. But I did not leave. That was what I could offer. Presence without rescue. She asked, can people change from something like that? Yes. Hope moved in her face. I continued, but not by asking the person they harmed to supervise the change. The hope dimmed. Good. Not cruel good. Necessary good. She nodded slowly. I understand. Do you? I'm trying. That is better than pretending. A faint smile broke through her tears and disappeared. You really have been around Professor Harper too much. Probably. She took a shaky breath. I ended things with Cameron. I'm glad. He said I was overreacting because I was embarrassed. Were you? Yes. That honesty again. But also because I finally saw him. What did you see? That he enjoys being chosen. He does not care what choosing him costs. I sat with that. It was accurate. She continued. He already started spending time with Sienna Vale. I knew the name. Venture family. Richer than the Blakes. Socially useful. Audrey laughed once, bitterly. She has a house inland. Safer. Apparently. I did not smile. Audrey looked at me. I don't want to be jealous of her. But you are. Yes. That is also honest. She nodded. Are you seeing anyone? The question was too early. Too personal. I looked at her. She immediately lowered her eyes. Sorry. I don't have the right to ask. No. You don't. She accepted it. Old Audrey would have cried harder. This one only nodded. My 20 minutes are almost over, she said. Can we ever start over? No. Her face went white. Though I think she expected it. I continued, not because I hate you. Because starting over would require me to pretend the storm was the breaking point. It wasn't. It was the proof. She whispered, the proof? Yes. That I would choose the room again. That you had chosen it many times. She closed her eyes. When she opened them, tears slid down her face, but her voice was steady. I respected your warning too late. Yes. And now I need to respect your choice. Yes. She nodded. I'm trying. I stood. Goodbye, Audrey. She flinched at the finality, but did not argue. Goodbye, Ethan. Outside the cafe, Noah leaned against a parking meter with 2 coffees and the expression of a guard dog wearing sneakers. You said 20 minutes, he said. It was 22. I was preparing a rescue operation. Unnecessary. That's the theme lately. He handed me a coffee. I took it. We walked toward the Astor Ridge building. After a while, Noah said, how was she? Honest. Annoying? Yes. Did you fold? No. He nodded. Good. The word no longer felt like praise. It felt like alignment. Civic Shield became the storm's uncomfortable success story. Not because the system had prevented the Villa incident, it had not been deployed yet, but because the incident demonstrated exactly why the system needed to exist. Time-stamped warnings. Route recommendations. Evacuation compliance tracking. Risk zone escalation. Group occupancy reporting. And emergency decision logs. Michael Chen called it market validation. Professor Harper called it a preventable public safety failure. Noah called it rich people beta testing consequences. All 3 were right. Within 2 months, Port Haven signed a pilot agreement. 2 other coastal municipalities requested demonstrations. A regional insurance consortium wanted to discuss premium incentives for properties that integrated evacuation compliance systems. Emergency managers wanted a dashboard that could identify clusters of people remaining in evacuation zones based on voluntary check-ins, property management reports, and public risk alerts. We worked constantly. The platform changed. The product we signed that night became bigger, stronger, and less theoretical. Civic Shield added a civilian acknowledgement system. Users in evacuation zones received official warnings, route maps, shelter options, and a time-stamped prompt asking them to confirm whether they were evacuating, sheltering, or needing assistance. Property managers could submit occupancy reports. Emergency teams could prioritize locations where people had remained after warnings. No system could force adults to make good decisions. But it could make denial harder. Professor Harper said, accountability is a feature. Michael said, that should be a slide. Noah said, that should be a tattoo. I said no to both. Meanwhile, Audrey's social world changed. Not dramatically at first. Softly. Invitations came later. Group chats moved without her. Cameron stopped calling unless he needed help managing fallout. His new circle gathered around Sienna Vale, whose family had money, inland property, and no public video laughing beside a hurricane warning. Audrey experienced what I had lived with for years, being useful only when convenient. She did not tell me every detail, but enough reached me. Noah had a morally questionable talent for knowing things. Sienna's family hosted a recovery fundraiser last night, he said one morning. I was reviewing a shelter capacity map. Cameron went. Audrey was not invited. I kept working. Noah studied me. You're not even doing a small villain smile. No. Growth is boring. Try it. No. Audrey did not call that night. She texted 2 days later. I understand now that I didn't lose Cameron's circle because of the storm. I lost it because I was only welcome while I made him look good. I read it, then set the phone down. Noah asked, her? Yes. You replying? No. Good. You don't know what she said. I know enough. He was not entirely wrong. Some realizations deserve to remain with the person who finally has them. Audrey had spent years sending her emotional debris to me for sorting. This time, she could hold it. Cameron's public downfall continued because he could not stop talking. He did a podcast with a friend from his finance circle, trying to make himself look unfairly judged. No one talks about personal responsibility anymore, he said. Everyone wants a villain. We had a party. The storm intensified. People stayed because they wanted to. I didn't chain anyone to the house. The clip went viral for the wrong reason. Emergency responders did not appreciate it. Neither did the county commissioner. Neither did several guests who had been terrified upstairs while Cameron downplayed everything. One guest posted, Cameron kept telling us the house was safe and leaving was more dangerous. Then after rescue, he said we all stayed voluntarily. Both things can't be his defense. That line spread. Cameron became the face of wealthy recklessness during hurricane season. Brands quietly dropped him. Sienna Vale stopped appearing in photos with him. His father made a donation to coastal emergency services that everyone recognized as reputation repair. Cameron sent me one message from a number I did not know, you got what you wanted. I forwarded it to Noah. Noah replied, can I answer? A functioning weather warning culture. I wrote back, no. Then blocked the number. Audrey showed up at the Civic Shield office 3 months after the storm. By then, we had moved into a small but real office near the downtown emergency management center. Not glamorous. Exposed ducts. Concrete floors. Too many monitors. One conference table Noah called emotionally unstable because it wobbled. The receptionist called back, and Audrey Hart is here to see you. She says she doesn't have an appointment. Noah looked up from a contract. Absolutely not. I thought for a moment. 5 minutes in the lobby. Noah narrowed his eyes. I will be visible through glass. Fine. Audrey stood near the entrance holding a folder. She looked nervous but composed. Hi. Hi. She glanced around. This is your company? Yes. It suits you. Unstable table and all. She smiled faintly. I meant the purpose. I said nothing. She held out the folder. I'm not here to ask for anything personal. What is it? A proposal. The Hart Foundation is funding hurricane evacuation education for student housing and coastal rentals. I wanted your team to review the safety content. Paid if you accept. If you don't want any connection, I understand. I did not take the folder immediately. What made you choose that? The shelter. Her face changed. After we were rescued, there was a woman there with 2 kids. She had left early because her building manager made them do evacuation drills every season. She said she hated them until that night. I kept thinking, I had warnings. I had someone explaining risk. And I laughed. Her fingers tightened on the folder. I don't want other people to need an Ethan in the room to say what official warnings already say. That was good work. It irritated me that it was good. Not because I wanted her useless. Because usefulness after harm is complicated. I took the folder. I'll have Noah review conflict terms. Audrey nodded. Thank you. This doesn't mean, she said quickly. It doesn't mean us. It doesn't mean forgiveness. It doesn't mean I get access to you. She had learned the language. Good. Painful. Good. Noah appeared behind the glass, arms folded, visibly suspicious. Audrey noticed. He still hates me. He remembers accurately. She nodded. That's fair. She turned to leave, then paused. Ethan. Yes. Someone said about me once. I heard it from someone. That I didn't regret staying at the party. I regretted that you didn't make my choice safe. I said nothing. She looked at me. He was right then. I think I regret the right thing now. What is that? I regret believing your life was available as insurance for my pride. I held her gaze. That was the cleanest truth she had said. Then keep regretting that, I said. It might teach you something. She nodded. I am. Then she left. Noah came out immediately. Why is growth so annoying? I looked down at the folder. Because it doesn't undo damage. Exactly. We'll review the proposal. No personal access. I know. You are annoyingly ethical. Thank you. That was not praise. It sounded like praise. The Heart Foundation project became one of Civic Shield's earliest education partners. Carefully structured. Contractual. Professional. No private meetings. No emotional spillover. It helped student housing managers and coastal rental owners communicate evacuation risk in plain language. It included a section Audrey wrote herself anonymously at first, *, do not turn someone else's willingness to rescue you into your safety plan. *. Professor Harper read it and said, adequate. From her, that was practically poetry. 1 year after Hurricane Celeste, Port Haven held a public resilience summit. Civic Shield was no longer a small project. We had city contracts, investor funding, a staff of 22, and a product that emergency managers actually used. During the first tropical storm of the new season, our system helped reroute evacuation traffic away from 2 flood-prone corridors before they failed. Not perfect. Nothing was. But better saved lives. The summit took place in the city auditorium, far inland. Screens behind the stage showed before and after maps from Hurricane Celeste, evacuation compliance data, road closure timelines, and anonymous case studies from coastal properties. One of those case studies was Cameron's Villa, not named, but everyone local knew. I stood backstage with Noah adjusting my microphone. He looked me over. You look almost respectable. Almost. Your tie says founder. Your eyes say ghost who learns spreadsheets. Thank you. Any time. Professor Harper stood nearby reviewing my speech. You have 3 sentimental paragraphs too many. I have 2. 3. I'm keeping them. She sighed. Founders become impossible once funded. Michael Chen walked by and said, that's true. The auditorium filled with city officials, emergency responders, property owners, students, insurers, journalists, and residents from coastal neighborhoods. Audrey was there. I saw her in the middle rows, sitting with the Heart Foundation delegation. She did not wave. Good. Cameron was not there. Also good. When my turn came, I walked to the podium. The lights were bright, but not like the villa. No blue party glow. No ocean behind glass. Only people who had gathered because storms were real and warnings deserved respect. I began with data. Landfall timeline. Evacuation zone compliance. Road closure failures. Response delays. Then I stopped looking at the slides. A year ago, I said, I was at a party in a beachfront house inside a mandatory evacuation zone. The room changed. People knew, even if they did not know every detail. They knew enough. I warned the people there. I showed official alerts, route risks, storm surge maps. I asked someone I loved to leave with me. I did not look at Audrey. I was laughed at. Noah's face hardened in the front row. Professor Harper watched without expression. I continued, in another version of my life, I think I would have gone back after leaving. Would have mistaken love for personal rescue. I would have driven into the danger zone because someone called and said they were scared. My hand tightened on the podium. But emergency systems exist because fear is not a plan. Love is not a vehicle rating. Loyalty does not make flood water lower. And no relationship should require becoming an additional casualty to prove care. The auditorium was silent. I did not go back personally. I called emergency management. I provided the address, guest count, risk conditions, and later updated the situation. Responders saved them when it became possible. I took a breath. Some people later asked whether not going back meant I did not care whether they lived. That question is wrong. I cared enough to call the people equipped to help. I simply stopped confusing love with dying beside someone else's mistake. In the middle rows, Audrey lowered her head. I saw it only briefly, then I looked back at the audience. Civic Shield was built from that lesson. We cannot force people to evacuate. We cannot remove pride, denial, social pressure, or the human talent for treating warnings as insults. But we can make risk clearer. We can make choices documented. We can make rescue coordination faster. We can protect responders from avoidable uncertainty. And we can teach one simple principle. I looked across the room. Warnings are not negativity. Warnings are care before disaster becomes visible. That line made several emergency managers nod. Good. I finished with the line Professor Harper had told me to cut. Do not wait until someone risks their life for you before believing they loved you. Believe them when they warn you early enough for everyone to survive. The applause came slowly, then fully. Not glamorous. Not wild. But real. After the summit, people came to talk. A fire chief. A city planner. A coastal rental manager. A student who said her parents refused to evacuate during storms and asked how to talk to them. A mother who cried because her son had been rescued during Celeste. I spoke until my throat hurt. Then, near the side exit, Audrey waited. Noah spotted her and appeared beside me like security with emotional opinions. Audrey noticed. I can wait, Noah said. You can also email. I gave him a look. He said, fine. I'll be 10 feet away and radiating judgment. Audrey smiled faintly. Fair. Noah stepped aside, but not far. Audrey turned to me. Your speech was good. Thank you. The line about warnings being care. I wish I understood it then. You didn't? No. She looked older than she had at the villa. Not in a bad way. More grounded. Less polished around the edges. I ask myself sometimes, she said, if I had left with you that night, would we still be together? I had expected the question. Still, it moved through me like wind through an old crack. No. She nodded slowly, as if she had already answered it herself. I said, maybe for longer. But one day it would have been another room. Another Cameron. Another group laughing at something I said because it made them feel reckless and important. And you would have had to choose whether to stand beside me before the disaster proved I was right. Tears filled her eyes. And I would have failed. I don't know. I do, she whispered. At least, who I was then would have. That was probably true. She wiped her cheek. Did you really not care whether I lived? No. No, you didn't care? No. That isn't true. She breathed shakily. I said, I cared whether you lived. I cared whether everyone in that house lived. That's why I called emergency management. That's why I sent routes and instructions. That's why I updated the count. But I stopped believing that caring required me to die too. She closed her eyes. When she opened them, the tears had fallen, but she was steady. I'm sorry for making you feel like my life mattered more than yours. That one hit. I looked away. Noah, 10 feet away, stopped pretending not to listen. Audrey continued, I'm sorry for laughing. I'm sorry for staying. I'm sorry for making your fear look embarrassing when it was the most loving thing anyone did for me that night. I swallowed. Thank you for saying it clearly. Her mouth trembled. I learned from the best. No. You learned from consequences. She smiled sadly. That too. Silence. Then she said, Cameron wrote to me last month. I said nothing. He said he misses how things used to be. That means he misses being chosen without cost. Yes. Did you answer? No. Good. This time, the word did not feel like a wound. It felt like a small, finished bridge. Audrey nodded. I'm trying to become someone who leaves before the warning becomes proof. That is worth doing. I know you don't want to be part of that process. I don't. I won't ask. Thank you. She took a step back. Goodbye, Ethan. Goodbye, Audrey. She walked away. Noah returned to my side. You okay? Yes. Actually, yes? Good. There it was again. Good. A year before, I had walked out of Cameron Blake's villa into the storm feeling like I was abandoning someone I loved. Now I understood I had been returning myself. People later told the story in the simplest possible way. My girlfriend stayed at a beach villa party during a hurricane warning, and I refused to save her. That version was wrong. I did save her. I just did not save her myself. I warned her. I warned them. I documented the warning. I sent routes. I called the right people. I updated the situation. I stayed alive. That last part matters. In my first life, I thought love meant driving back into a typhoon to drag someone out of a room full of idiots laughing at the weather. In this life, I learned that warning someone is care. Calling professionals is care. Leaving before the road closes is care for yourself. And refusing to become the casualty of someone else's pride is not cruelty. It is survival. Audrey chose the villa. Cameron chose the party. Their friends chose the room that laughed at warnings. I chose the road out. I did not watch them die. I did not hope they suffered. I did not abandon them to the storm. I simply stopped turning their bad decisions into my funeral. That night, the hurricane took the seawall, the cars, the power, the party, and the illusion that charm could negotiate with water. It did not take me. Not this time. This time, I respected her choice. And finally, I respected my own life enough to leave.